Hi, and welcome to our January 26th edition of Talks Within a Nine-Sided Circle. I'm Kyle, and this is Mush Talk, and we're going to be your hosts this evening, discussing the right use of energy in terms of the work, how we can make sure that we're not losing energy with activities that are going to be distracting or just unuseful, unhelpful, things that are going to get in the way of our growth. And as always, you're going to find us on YouTube. You're going to find us on Facebook. If you'd like to, you can subscribe here on Facebook so that you can keep up with us every week. We're always doing new posts. We're always doing new talks. And you can join us by following us on our Facebook group or by following our newsletters that we send out every week. What would you like to say, Mishta?
I would like to say, look down there. You see down there,
Yeah.
if you're watching us on YouTube, right down here, well, there's a little button right here that you can push to subscribe to us. And you can also push the subscribe button below that, and you can click the little bell. We are still getting subscribers, and it always amazes me. I'm delighted that we are getting more subscribers.
Yep.
So subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you like this video, hit the like button. If you hate this video, hit the hate button. We don't care. We ignore your opinions anyway. So
you can comment.
yes, you could comment. We would love your comments.
And we may or may not ignore those opinions too.
Yes,
we'll
but
see.
we will probably comment back to you.
Mm.
Yes, there is commenting back. So here we are, and we're talking about energy. And we're going to start this talk by asking a question. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to actually change something about yourself that you want to change? Even a simple habit, let alone a big habit. Have you noticed how hard it is to stop eating a food that you really love, even if it's bad for you? Or if you were ever a smoker, did you ever notice how hard it was to quit smoking? All of these things, there's a reason for this. And off the top of my head, I can think of the main reason, but I'm wondering if anybody else has an idea of what the reason might be, why it is so hard to change. Anybody but Ilmar who knows the answer to this question already? He's going, I do? Yes, you do.
Because it's more work to change than to do the usual thing.
That's definitely a reason, yeah. It's not the reason I'm looking for, but it's a good reason.
Well, if it's more work, you need more energy.
Yes, and?
It can be hard to access that energy.
That's true. Anybody else got any ideas on this?
Yes, we get used to acting in certain ways, and we get those patterns of behavior and stuff become more and more entrenched, and it becomes more and more difficult to change anything. The more that you do it, the more normal it becomes, the more it becomes a part of you.
Yep. So let me suggest to you that in order to make lasting change, you must raise your personal energy. I'm using energy here in a very non-scientific way. It's a kind of placeholder for whatever it actually is, because I get tired of giving the long explanation. So we're just going to call it energy for lack of a better term right now. So you have to raise your personal energy above a certain threshold in order to actually affect change in yourself. And unless you do, you cannot make the change. Think of it in the terms of resistance, in the sense of electrical resistance. In order to get an electrical current, the current has to overcome the resistance of the medium through which it travels. Right? This is the same thing. In order for you to have that energy that you need to change your own habits, your own conditioning, you have to have enough to overcome that inertia of the habit, that groove that you have burned into your neurons that say, do it this way. And the trouble is though naturally we probably would have enough energy to do this thing, because we don't use our energy correctly, we dissipate the energy that we need for growth. And I'm going to give you a model on how to think about this. This is only a model. It's not the best model, perhaps, but it's a serviceable model. And if you remember the image that I put up with the announcement for this tonight, as a matter of fact, let me put it up again real quick. Hang on here for a second.
I was going to suggest that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I want everybody to see it. I'm going to put it up on the screen for everybody. We'll just take a second to load it up into the graphics program. I now have a new image viewing program, which is so much better than the Microsoft one. I am just ecstatic over it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of it?
It is called, it's just about up here. Photoscape X. It's free. And any day that I don't have to use Microsoft is a good day as far as I'm concerned. I'm hating on Microsoft really bad right now because they have completely ruined Solitaire.
What? How dare they?
Yep.
How
So
dare they?
here is this image. Do you all see it yet?
It's
Nope.
loading. There it
Yeah.
is.
There it is. Okay, and it's like, what is the right use of energy? And then it has a circle, and then it has 4 concepts around the circle. And we're going to look at all 4 of these concepts. We're going to start down here where it says emotions. Then we're going to go to body, mind, and spirit. So the theory is that there is a proper way to use each of these in dealing with energy. So the proper position of emotions is in giving. You use your emotions to give. You use your body to hold. You use your mind to receive. And you use your spirit to determine. This is not a model from the work per se. This model comes from a different tradition, but I'll steal from anybody if it works. So I think that this is a good explanation. It helps people understand. So this would be the right use of energy. Giving energy with your emotions, holding energy in your body, receiving energy with your mind, and determining the flow of energy with your spirit. A little word on spirit here. That is a gloss for the deepest part of yourself, the unconscious part of yourself that can find inspiration. Because the determining comes through inspiration. You notice that the word inspire, you notice how that sounds like spirit? That's because the words are related. To inspire literally means to breathe in. Expire means to die, and it means to breathe out. So inspiration comes from spirit. Spirit also means breath, by the way. The spiritus in Latin talks about, soul and all of that, but it also means breath. So we have the correct use of energy. Nobody does it this way without a bunch of practice. Everybody tends to get this kind of screwed up. And I will give you first the two most common ways people screw this up, and then we can look at some of the more uncommon ways, and we can look at what you can do about it. So the most common way for some people to get this screwed up is that they will switch body and emotions. They will hold energy with their emotions, and they will give energy with their bodies. This is particularly true in this culture of women. So I'm going to switch off of this so we can argue about that. And where are we? How do I turn this off? Help. There we go. And we're back. All right, so this idea of what does it look like when you hold energy with your emotions? Any thoughts? This is not a rhetorical question. Do feel free to answer.
Like
Keep
holding a
going over
grudge.
it.
Say again?
Holding a grudge.
That could be one way you do it.
Nancy, what were your thoughts?
Going over the same things again and again.
Yes, that is a good example. Holding a grudge is a specialized case of that, but it's basically literally holding on to an experience or event with your energy and going over it over and over and over again. How do you give through with your body?
Would it be like working yourself to the point of burnout?
That could definitely be one. So remember, the body and the emotions have switched sides, switched jobs. What does that look like then? Working yourself to a point of burnout is a really good example of that. There are others. What can you think of?
Overdoing fun would be another example.
Overdoing fun, especially physical fun. You know, things like, and I've done this, believe it or not. I know. Yes. There have been times when I've done something like I've gone out and I'm going to do like a half an hour cross country skiing, and I'm out for 5 hours because I'm having so much fun. And then I come staggering back in, and every muscle in my body is incredibly sore, and I don't want to move for the next 2 days. But what else? What do you think would be a really good example of this?
Socially being available all the time.
Yes, that would be a good one. What's another one? Along those lines, especially. Think about it. Holding and giving. You're giving with your body.
Thinking of sex as an obligation.
That could definitely be part of it. How about sex as in lieu of love? People will conflate sex and love together. I mean, yes, you can have sex and love as the same thing, you know, or at the same time, but sex is not love. Love is not sex. Without the emotion part of you doing the giving, then one very common way in relationship that people use to try and keep the relationship going, to express themselves, is to give with their bodies, and they get involved in all sorts of sexual stuff without the necessary emotional connection, because the giving makes the connection. And I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but I know in the United States, this is a problem of epidemic proportions.
I'm thinking that part of what leads to compulsive giving with the body is precisely trying to repeat emotions.
Yep. Say more about that, because that sounds like a good idea, what you just said.
Well, if your habit with emotions is you want the same emotions again and again, then you will repeat the same actions to try to get them, which is the body.
Good point. Any other thoughts on this? Ilmar, you're being very quiet.
Well, I thought it was told to be quiet.
No, I only didn't want you to answer that one question because I knew that you knew the answer to that question.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, I guess another. I kind of missed what Zena said, so I'm hoping I'm not repeating it. But I would assume displays of anger. I mean, aggressive beating up on somebody would be certainly one example of that kind of stuff.
Yep. That is actually what he said. That is an extremely good example of giving with the body as opposed to the emotions. You can be angry with somebody. You can express that anger. You can express it appropriately. But if you do it with your body instead of with your emotions, then it turns to violence. All right, let's look at the other.
I don't want to jump in the way of that one, but just if that anger was getting expressed as verbal abuse or something like that, would that be the case of it swapping with the mind?
Probably so, yes. So the other really common one that we see using this model and reminding ourselves that this is just a model. It's a way of talking about things. This is not the truth. This is not a lie. It's a model. And that is the other most common one is swapping mind and spirit. So if you do that, then you end up trying to determine with the mind and receive with the spirit. Did I spell spirit wrong?
No, it's good.
Okay, good. I never know these days. Vowels. Vowels are not my friend.
You did fine.
Okay. Phew. So, in American culture, this is the male. If the swapping body and emotions is one that women tend to do, swapping mind and spirit is one that men tend to do. The important term there is tend, because this is not an absolute, but there is a tendency in our culture to encourage this. And that means we go around trying to use our mind to determine things. The job of the mind is to receive. When we receive, we organize. But if we try and determine what is being given to us, if we try to determine what that means or what we're going to do with it, oftentimes we will end up shooting ourselves in the foot. Interestingly, this one is the one that I get the most argument for, because people go, yeah, but we're supposed to use our minds. Yes, you are supposed to use your minds. You're supposed to use your minds for what they are designed for. And the mind and the spirit work together, but they have to use their correct places. And the place of the spirit, and remember, we're defining the spirit as inspiration, and that part of you, that part of your consciousness that is below the threshold of mind or outside of the threshold of mind, the greater unconscious mind, is the determiner. And it determines through inspiration. So you receive a bunch of information with your mind, you organize it correctly, you present it to your spirit, and you allow the inspiration to come. And when it comes, you receive it. Then it goes into action and all of this other stuff. And there's parts of this model that we are not going to be able to get into tonight. But we will do our very best to cover as much of it as we can, because I think it's useful. Because we can always ask ourselves, how am I using my energy right now? You know, am I trying to give with my body? Am I trying to give with my spirit? Am I trying to receive with my mind, or am I trying to receive with my emotions? Am I trying to give with my spirit? All of these things we can screw up. And if there is one proper way to do things, there are any number of improper ways to do things. Probably what, 16 different improper ways? Will, you're the teacher. How many combinations of these four can we get?
How many
Math
different
struggle.
ways could you organize A, B, C, D in different orders, are you saying?
Yes. I think it's 16. Maybe 12.
Is the order important?
Nope. Just a
Yeah.
relationship.
I'm gonna
And you can-
just trust you with the 16, Mushtak.
Yeah, I could be completely talking out of my ass, so don't trust me.
Close enough, and I didn't think
Yeah.
it matters that
Yeah.
much.
I think the point is made that there are many different combinations of ways that this could go sideways. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do it like my grandfather used to count. 1, 2, 3, many. So there we have this basic model. And the idea behind the model is that you can see how you are wasting your energy. And instead of wasting it, you can store it for your own work. Now, where do you store your energy?
Will's
Yes,
pointing
Will.
to himself. Yeah.
Yeah, in your body.
Yep.
If the body holds, then you must store energy in your body rather than any place else. Now, funny, what keeps people from correctly storing energy for use in their bodies?
Doing any number of those incorrect ways of using the energy, I guess.
Yes. And what happens when you do that? What happens in the body?
I'm thinking about friction and struggle
Mm-hmm.
and fatigue.
Why would we need something like stretch therapy or massage?
Because we might feel tense in the body.
Hmm.
There is a lot of restrictions,
Yeah, and what would cause this tension and restrictions?
poor use of energy.
Yes. Tension is energy bound in the body. And we know I know from personal experience, both from receiving and giving, that if I'm working on somebody's body and I find like a big knot and I push on it hard enough to make the knot release, there will often be a release of more than just the tension in the knot. There could be a release of emotion, or there could be a release of experience, of thought in some way. So if the body is the accumulator of energy, the battery that we can charge up or dissipate, then we want the battery to be in good shape. This is why I am always saying that the way starts in physicality. You must be in your body before you can do anything else. Does that mean that you have to be an Olympic level athlete? No. For some people, it might mean that you walk an hour a day to keep your energy up. It depends on who you are and where you are. So for Kyle, for instance, her physical regime is going to be very different from mine. My physical regime is going to be very different from Funny's. And Funny's physical regime will be very different from Nancy's. And yet we all need to be doing what we need to do in order to make our bodies a good vessel for the storage of this energy. I may be mixing metaphors here somehow, but I will beg for your forgiveness.
Okay, so how does the energy get, so to speak, misstored in the body? How do you get these blockages? I mean, the one point that obviously hits home for me is the mind-spirit interaction, and
That would be probably one of your favorite misuses.
right. And for a long time, I was looking to the mind to essentially determine, hey, what should I be doing? What's my goal, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than getting in touch with my higher self, whatever now, and then waiting for inspiration. So let's say I've had those turned around for a while. How would that get into being presumably blocked energy in the body or dissipated?
Yeah, it would be blocked energy in the body because the body is all you got.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting. And I am going to be kind of flailing a little bit on this because I don't have really good language for it. I also share your particular perversion, Ilmar, of preferring to determine with the mind. So
it's going to hang together then, right?
yeah, we share the same curse. So
interesting to understand the mechanism of that, because sometimes it feels like it's mental masses. Presumably these are what, energies in the brain, or where would you
the brain is part of the body,
right? But I mean that's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, so how do we store thought, feeling, memory?
Yeah,
I suggest to you that we store it holographically. and we store it in two ways. Well, we store it in a number of different ways, but two primary ways, which are visually and kinesthetically. Now, if I ask you to remember your childhood home, you're going to make an image of that. And that image is actually going to appear to be probably outside of you. And it might be up in front of you. It could even be behind you. But imagine a sphere around you that has memories hanging in them in picture form.
Okay.
And then imagine that there's some sort of metaphorical line between that image and some part of your body.
Okay.
Or several parts of your body that produce kinesthetic sensation of one form or another.
Okay.
Now, there could also be olfactory, gustatory, auditory. All of your senses can and will be involved in these memories.
And so the image, is that, I mean, are you thinking of it as something that's stored in the brain or something that's sort of projected via the brain into?
Well, I'm assuming that the brain has some function in this.
Mm-hmm.
The brain seems to be a central processing area. I don't know if everything is exactly stored in the brain, because I know if I create sensation in your body by pushing on a muscle, you can get images from that. I'm assuming that it goes through your brain. It would make sense that it did. But the way we perceive it is as a field around us.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, when I make an image, it has a place most of the time outside of me in space.
Gotcha.
So if I think of Kyle is right here. When I create a picture of her, that's where she is, right in this spot. If I create a picture of my childhood home, it's up here. If I create a picture of my cat, it's right here. I can locate each of these pictures in space around me. And as far as I can tell, pretty much everybody does that to some degree or another. And each of those images that is mapped in this sphere of which my perception of myself is the center, each of those is attached to one or more feelings. So if I think of my cat, you know, here's my cat, and he's not too far away, because distance makes a difference as well. How far is the image from the center that you perceive as you? If I think of my cat, you know, I feel a warm, fuzzy feeling just below my diaphragm, because he's a nice cat. If I think of my elementary school, it's far out over here, and it doesn't have a good feeling. I did not like that school.
And so, okay, so what do you use the sphere for? I mean,
We all use it to store memory, or to access memory.
Access memory. That's it. Yeah. That's better. Because it seems, at least in my experience, I mean, I can sometimes play with these pictures, or these masks.
Yeah, you actually have profound control over all aspects of this, should you choose to exercise it. If I have a memory I don't like, I will tend to consciously take that memory and push it very, very far away from me till it is almost a a pinpoint image. And when I do that, the associated feeling in my body dissipates. So yeah, that's simple hypnosis tricks. But it works like gangbusters because this is all part of the operating system for your mind.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking at what the practical use of that is. I mean,
Well,
you know, 'cause
for
from a-
instance, if I have somebody who's suffered from a horrible trauma, I can have them move all of their experience of the trauma into an image and then push the image as far away as they need to stop feeling the pain of the trauma without forgetting the learning of the trauma.
Mm.
That's a very practical use of it.
Mm. Mm.
And that means when you do that, then you have released energy.
Have you released energy, or have you
Yes.
just sort of sequestered it away someplace?
No, you've released it
Right,
because if you are no longer having to feel the feelings that you were feeling over and over and over again, you get that energy for something else. The amount of energy that you have is finite. We do not actually have infinite energy unless, maybe if you're the Buddha, you have infinite energy. I don't know. I don't have infinite energy. So for every bit of energy that I can free up, I then have that for other uses.
Yeah,
So that's,
go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that's one motivation to make sure we're handling those things that tend to chew at us, because if we don't have unlimited energy, then it's important to work through that stuff.
And I guess my question is that really, are you working through it, or are you kind of repressing it by moving it out there and essentially?
You're not repressing it because it's still right there. You have access to it. If you repress something, you have no access to it. I have any number of things stored out there that I can just find and pull in anytime I need to examine them. There is no repression going on at all. As a matter of fact, the whole point is to keep all of the learning that you can get from any experience, positive or negative, but not suffer from it. There is no virtue in experiencing the pain over and over and over and over again. Once you learn the lesson of that event, you do not need to suffer from it every time you think of it.
Okay. And when you pull that memory or whatever it is back into present time awareness, you kind of re-energize it, but
No, I just see it. It's never not in present time awareness when I want it, No memory is in present time awareness until you are thinking it. So happiest, best memory you have until you think it is not in present time awareness. It's in storage.
okay. Anyway, go on. I'm finding it's an interesting model, so I'm all ears.
And like I said, the model is imperfect. I'm the first to admit that the model is imperfect because I've grafted two models together in order to be able to talk about this. And even now we are refining it.
Yep.
Yeah. So Noor, you were about to say something else?
Unfortunately, I don't recall now. I mean, just now I was affirming what you were saying.
Okay. Zoha, what do you think?
I think I personally, my personal experiences actually aligns with what this diagram's describing.
Okay.
And I'm just following the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't think we're crazy?
No.
At least not for this reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us what is
Yeah.
the story there. but thank you for just sharing that. It seems to resonate with you.
Sure.
Okay, Will, where are you? There you are.
Wait. Hello.
Yeah, since this is your question, what do you need to know about this? Have we covered enough of it for you?
I wouldn't mind going over like the right use of each and talking through a few examples.
Yeah, I mean, we have talked a bit about like what are more challenging ways to
Mm-hmm.
work through this model, but what would be more, I hate the word productive, but more meaningful, more energy efficient, shall we say, ways of working through this model.
All right. So let's pull this sucker up again.
Like if you say you need to start with the body and look after the battery, I assume in that case we're talking about making sure that you've got a body that's robust, it's strong enough to do what you need to do, it's not fragile.
As robust as it can be. Everybody starts with a different body. And it's, you know, make the most out of what you got. And so, you know, myself or Ilmar will probably not be doing a lot of super duper heavy powerlifting at this point in our lives. Whereas you might want to go out and do that. And you're young and studly, so you can get away with that. Now, for Kyle, for instance, what looks like exercise for her would not look like exercise for Funny.
Nope.
But she will still be exercising to the limit of her capacity and stretching that capacity.
Yes.
Would you recommend pushing those limits hard or being gentle with them?
Kind of a bit of both, right? Because not only should you, of course, be growing, but it's almost like a measured growth so that you're not spinning yourself out into damaging activities, right?
Yeah, I am soundly against burnout. And so, you know, some people get obsessed with things like bodybuilding. Now, there is being fit, and then there is being a bodybuilder, and those two do not tend to cross paths very much. I find that a lot of bodybuilders that I've experienced are extremely unhealthy, even though they look like, well, they don't look like Greek statues, right? There is no Greek statue that has ever looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But so that would be an example. Extreme bodybuilding is an example of giving with the body. You can even probably take that all the way across the circle into determining with the body. And at the height of extreme bodybuilding, you are trying to determine who you are through the way you shape your body. And that will tend to be unhealthy.
But you see the same thing very often, I think, I find in some of my women friends who essentially, you know, are so concerned about their looks, basically. That becomes their identity in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since we live in a youth culture, that is something that has become somewhat epidemic.
So I see that we discussed body and we discussed conversion. I wonder if you could speak a bit to like the proper use of mind. You know, I mean, we've talked about proper exercise of the body, but what's the proper use of mind and spirit? I mean, how, you know, what would be?
So if the mind receives, then the proper use of the mind is literally to pay attention, to receive what is given to it, and to organize that.
So model building would be
Model building can get very important. You got to watch that you are not determining how the model should be built with your mind. You got to look for those inspirations, but hopefully you're getting the idea that all four of these work together when they're working properly. So yes, the mind receives, the mind builds models, the mind can analyze. Critical thinking is way in the realm of the mind. And critical thinking is to receive an argument and break that argument down and then present it to spirit for that inspiration of, oh, is this argument both valid and sound? Or if it is a valid argument, but it seems to you to be unsound, where do you challenge that argument in order to find out what its weaknesses are?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I find that the mind becomes especially kind of interesting when the mind produces almost like two opposite models, if you want, and then what it itself doesn't seem capable of coming up with an integrated model, but sometimes the inspiration is what provides the integration.
Yeah, the inspiration is almost always what provides the integration. Also, if you try and receive with your emotions, as opposed to giving with your emotions, you get the classic logical fallacies. I mean, one of the classic logical fallacies is, in fact, appeal to emotion. I mean, what was Barry Goldwater? Most of you do not remember Barry Goldwater, probably only Ilmar. His campaign slogan, "In your heart, you know he's right." That's an appeal to emotion. That's asking you to receive and determine with the emotions rather than with the mind and spirit.
And yet that seems to be very effective. I mean, you see, for example, Trump's campaign using that all the time.
Effective for what?
Well, for producing the kind of results that at least that campaign is trying to
It's effective for control. It's not effective for the individual to actualize themselves. To borrow a term from psychology. People who are caught up in that kind of political thinking are basically spinning around in circles and going nowhere. And this gets into Noor's question from the forum the other day about that Ursula Le Guin quote.
Shall I reread it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Seeing if I could remember it off the top of my head, but let's just be fastidious and go get it. All right.
I'm gonna get this off.
Okay. She wrote, "To oppose something is to maintain it." Again, to oppose something is to maintain it.
Yep. And a lot of people, it looked like, completely misunderstood that statement. Not a lot of people, a couple of people. And transformed it into what they thought it should mean instead of what it actually means. Nobody here did that, by the way. I'm pointing at the other guy.
So what would you like to say about that?
Okay. To oppose something is to maintain it. At the level of what we're talking about, opposition to something, like opposition of the Republicans to the Democrats and the Democrats to the Republicans, creates a sort of pathological symbiosis. If liberals did not exist, conservatives would have to invent them, and vice versa. Because if you think about it, especially today, conservatives and liberals don't have any platform that is not in opposition to their opposites platform.
I think that not only goes between parties, but you know, when people get into this point of the debates, even though they're on the same team, quote unquote, they start finding ways to tear each other apart in order to win out, to prove themselves worthy of nomination.
Yep. Yeah, Le Guin's quote is a fancy way of saying a little catchy phrase that we had back in the 60s, which was, what you resist persists. When you're pushing against that wall, you might find that you're actually holding that wall up. Just a thought.
I mean, actually, sort of sense in terms of energy flows. If you have essentially two energy flows opposing each other, what you tend to do is build up a ridge that's sort of like a static ridge almost, you know.
Yep.
And that often becomes when you're dealing with a problem. I mean, you want to go this, but you also want to this, and you're going back and forth between the two, and it's kind of, it just sort of sticks there, you know. And so that, I think, is almost like a kind of energetic phenomenon.
Yep, it kind of is.
Have we touched on the right use of emotion? I don't believe we have, and I want to make sure we
We
do.
probably haven't. If you don't believe we have, then we must not have.
Nope.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what emotion was giving.
Emotion is giving you. Giving with the emotions is giving contact, giving connection, giving intersection, like that. So here's me, here's the other, and if we are giving with our emotions, we get this.
Probably also means giving yourself to yourself.
Probably. So I'm hanging out with somebody who I really care about, and I turn to them and I feel the caring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I say to them, you know, I really care about you. And I say it in such a way that that emotion is passed to them. And they receive it. And then usually they give something back with their emotions, which might be, I really care about you, or you suck, go away. Could be anything. So the giving with the emotions is what makes the connection. You don't really make connections through the mind. You can share through the mind. But the real human connection happens through the emotions. At least according to this model. Like I said, it's just a model. You could have much, much better models.
And I would assume that even what we might consider quote unquote negative emotions like anger, I mean, I can be angry at you, but that creates an entanglement between us. I guess that also creates a connection. Yeah.
If you are angry with me and you say, Mushtaq, I'm really angry with you, right? That's still giving with your emotion. You know, and I can receive that. I can go, oh, he's really angry with me. And then I can see how I feel about that. And then I can give you my emotion back, which would be, gee, I'm really sorry that you're angry with me. What did I do? How could I make it better?
Mhm.
You notice there that there is no place for conflict when it's done that way. I mean, that's not to say that there couldn't be conflict, because my emotion might be, oh, stuff it.
But even in that case, it seems it still creates an entanglement between us.
Yes.
Even if it's an antagonistic entanglement. You know?
Yep.
So I think your point
You
about
are absolutely correct in that. Yeah.
it goes across the mood spectrum. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
So, did we do enough on emotion?
What do you think, Will? I see you jotting things down over there.
I reckon I'm halfway clear on emotion.
Okay, ask questions. I mean, this is your time. This is your moment. This is your talk, Will.
That's
Our
special.
shining star, Will.
Yeah. There used to be a TV show back in the 1950s called This Is Your Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they would spring this on some poor sap. Somebody's sitting there minding their own business, and the camera crew shows up and goes, Will, this is your life. And they bring in like your nursemaid from when you were 2 to talk about you as a little boy, and your teacher, and your first girlfriend, and she says something horribly embarrassing about you, and you know, on and on. So this is not that bad, but this is your talk.
Cool. So emotions, getting clear on, I guess. So the role of the giving is to bring together.
Yes, to make connection.
To connect and to do that. So when an example of somebody not doing that is like somebody is not really listening, or they kind of like distracted, and they're like, yeah, that sounds good, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Or
You've experienced this. Somebody who is going to give with their body, and they're really pissed at you, and they're sitting there and they're like, and you go, how are you doing? And you go, fine. Right? You've run across this person sometime in your life, right? And they are giving with their body and holding with their emotions in a case like that.
So the right case in that would be to just say, like, oh, I'm really pissed off, I need to, and share the actual emotion that's there.
Yep. Otherwise, you're just being, what's that term? Passive aggressive. Yes, you're being passive aggressive. And nobody likes a passive aggressive person.
Nope.
Yeah.
So Zoha she offers a good question, and she says, according to this model, is it to say connection is grounded in giving?
Yes.
I mean, I personally think very much so.
Yes, I would say that that's a very accurate statement. But giving of the emotions, giving of the feeling, giving of the connection. And that's not to say that this model is simplistic. I am the first to admit that. It has its value, and its value is to act as a heuristic, to really quickly look at what's going on and to go, oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing that. Oh, they're doing this. oh, I'm approaching this in the incorrect way. I'm trying to determine with my mind that I need to jump back from that and see what else.
Marcelo says, damn, yes. Good.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I try personally to stay away from the language of correct, incorrect, but I think we all get the point that we're talking about the most useful way of utilizing our energy.
Yeah.
The most meaningful way, the most efficient way, you know, all those types of words.
Yeah, and this is a convenient model for that.
Yep.
And I cannot stress to you enough, it's just a model. It's just one way of looking at things. There are thousands of other ways that you can look at the same process and gain different insights. This is just down and dirty, quick, useful.
So putting that into practice, then I'm going along living my life, whatever, and then I just get this feeling inside, something feels wrong. I'm feeling off, whatever. I'm not feeling like I'm actually doing things the way I should be, or I feel like there's something, I don't know, grinding inside. How do I use this to
First of all,
piece together how to get it back?
First of all, look at the language that you just used. The language was all feeling language.
Yeah.
So look at your emotions. What are they doing? What are you doing with them? Are you holding something emotionally? Are you trying to determine what's going on in your life through your emotions? Are you trying to receive something from somebody with your emotions, which is another really deadly thing to do? Receiving with the emotions is a recipe for disaster. So you determine that. So examining your language can give you a hint of what's going on. You also examine your body. You go, what is my body doing? Do I feel like I have enough energy? Does my energy feel drained and depleted? If so, how am I losing the energy that my body should be holding? Is my body giving it away? Are my emotions giving it away? Is my mind giving it away? Is my spirit giving it away? And then you make corrections as necessary, which is very easy to say and sometimes difficult to do.
Would you go through that same process? You're talking about looking at emotions, examining your body. Do you start looking at what is my mind?
Yeah, all of the above. Yeah.
How am I feeling, or what's going on in my spirit?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would find useful is some examples of productive and less productive ways of in the spirit area. So I don't think we really touched on that very much tonight.
Yeah, that's because that one is hard to talk about, and I was avoiding it. Damn you, Wilmar. Okay, so in order to determine with your spirit, you must be in contact with your spirit. This requires being open to the moment of inspiration. So I will do things like if I need to figure something out, if I need to determine something, I'll go for a walk, preferably out in nature. And I will completely not think about whatever it is that I am working on. I might think about other things. I might even listen to a book, plug it into my ears. I don't do that too terribly much because when I'm out in nature, I like to hear nature. But I could do all of that. Or I would sit down and play solitaire. Something to take my mind and focus it on something that is not horribly important. And definitely not the question. And I know that if I do that with the question, with holding the, excuse me, when I'm holding the idea, I want to know something about this. I want to find a way to determine this problem. That I will get an inspiration coming to me. And I always carry a little notebook with me to write down the inspirations as they come, which is another thing that you can do. Your spirit likes to be respected. So when you get little inspirations and you write them down for later use, that helps create a pathway for more inspiration. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. One of the things that sort of, in my experience, has so surprised me lately. I mean, I used to think this whole notion of a higher self and so forth was a lot of woo stuff, but a while ago I sort of got into actually trying to communicate as a separate ego, trying to communicate with that, what I conceive of to be my higher self or whatever the hell. And that seems to work. I mean, I actually get answers, and they're useful answers, which was sort of surprising, actually.
Yeah, people used to ask me about astrology, right? And I would say, I don't believe in astrology. I think astrology has no foundation in reality. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. And this is sort of the same thing. Higher self is woo-woo, right? But there is something deep within us that does not express itself consciously all the time that we all seem to have. And if we don't have it, if we act as if we did, it still works.
Yeah, it's almost like we create an invitation for that opening by going through some of these almost ceremonial type things.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that kind of reminds me of the other day I was dealing with some personal struggle-y type stuff, and after taking some time to sit with it and mentally come up with a list of things that I wanted to change, then I engaged with spirit and I did a ritual around that. And when my roommate noticed, I had some things set up to enact that ritual, she was like, "Do you think that stuff really works?" And I said, honestly, like, to me, it's not about whether it works per se, but the activity of doing it is an opening for inspiration.
Yeah. And then you end up finding out that, well, damn, it does work.
That's the funny part about it. Yeah, exactly.
I have this sometimes when I meditate, and sometimes I get very good ideas when I meditate. I'm guessing this is related to what we're talking about. Yeah, this is
related to that, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I haven't forgotten about your question, Mr. Keem. I just wanted to make sure that we got the opportunity to explore this question of spirit too.
Actually, before we leave spirit, can we give some examples of an improper relationship to the spirit?
I'm curious about that too, yeah. Yeah.
So, if you try and receive with spirit, you end up doing stuff like channeling. And of course, I am going to show my own prejudices here because I think channeling is utter and complete bullshit. Did I say that out loud?
You sure did.
Damn it. Hate mail. There's going to be thousands of hate letters, which means that people are watching the video, so I can't complain.
So how would you, acknowledging your prejudices, how would you explain channeling as receiving with spirit?
You are asking spirit to grab stuff out of the ether and tell you about it, as opposed to letting it work on its own in its own way to come up with whatever it is that you might need some inspiration for. And instead of getting inspiration, when you get somebody who's channeling, you get dogma, whether they want to say that it's dogma or not. You get dogma. Dogma is not inspiration.
Yeah, I wonder if that's too glib an answer though, because you know, to some
I'm a very
degree,
glib person, so
I'm here to call you on. So, because it seems to me sometimes it can act kind of in the way of a ceremony almost, in the sense that where Kyle was talking about it. You know, in my own experience, I've never channeled, but I've had some client. I mean, actually, one client specifically that actually thought she was a channel, and I don't know what the hell she was doing, but the persona that came through when she was doing her channel thing was a much more real and wiser persona than her usual persona. So no, I don't think it was another entity that she was channeling. I think
you think it was wiser in any objective sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. I mean, some of the advice she was giving and so forth was wiser. I don't think it was because it was coming from some other entity, but it was sort of tapping into an aspect, I suppose, of hers. And I've had this with some other people also, but in this particular case, it was especially clear. You know, I mean, she was. I mean, I won't mention the details just in case she might have someone listen.
At the times when I've experienced things like that, my experience has always been that seeming wisdom is actually so vague that you're projecting your own meanings on it.
Well, that could well be the case. That could well be. But that's, you know, what do you do with the I Ching but projecting your own?
Yeah, and this, you know, like I said, I cop to the fact that I have a prejudice against people who go around channeling stuff. I used to, when I had a actual physical school, we used to have little signs in the place, and one of them was, remember, just because they ain't got a body, don't make them smart.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, I've certainly heard people channeling that was nonsense. I mean, you know, but sometimes it seems like it's a way for the person to get their particular individual persona out of the way and speak from.
But what do they give you? What do they give you? When I look at all of these channels out there, whether it be Ramtha or Seth or whoever, they give you dogmas.
Right.
They say, this is the truth. Your spirit does not seem to say this is the truth. Your spirit might say, this is your truth. But that's the big difference. And we do not want dogmas to pull something from my brethren and sisterin of the Golden Apple. We want Katmas.
Katmas?
Katmas, yes.
What's a Katma?
A Katma is a provisional possible truth that can be changed at any time given new information, as opposed to a dogma.
Science, all right.
Yeah. Science gives us Katmas. Religion gives us dogmas. And so you get science and religion fighting like Katmas and dogmas. I don't believe I actually said that. Wash my mouth out with soap or something.
You know, the thing is that this heads off into a different direction, which is what the self is.
Yep, and that's too much for tonight. Yeah, we have already kind of run over.
I want to touch on Mustaqim's question before we all run away.
Yes, we must do that.
He asked, is the energy the same? What was that?
I have a more sensible self, which is running almost underground compared to my conscious self. Which could be like these people who think they're channeling and they're actually getting at their mouth occasionally.
Possibly.
Mushtaq, you probably ought to give a whole session to that topic one of these days.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
Okay, but let's get back to Mustaqim's question here.
Yes, he asked, is the energy the same in body energy, emotion energy, mind energy, spiritual energy? I guess he's asking, are those all the same thing?
And the answer is more or less yes. You know, as I like to say, this universe is based on the law of physics, and the law of physics cannot be broken. So, the law of physics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, merely transformed. So, the energy that is light is the same energy that can produce heat, that can produce radio waves, all of that kind of stuff. So, in that sense, yes, it's all the same energy, cycled up or down or turned in this way or that way for the use of that. But yeah, fundamentally, it's all the same energy, in my opinion, which could be wrong, but I don't think so.
I tend not to think so either. Yeah. Cool.
All right. Let's wrap this show up for the night.
Mm-hmm.
So, big announcement. Hold on to your hats. Kyle and I have been talking about doing a course for over a year now.
Yep.
And it has come to us that it is now time to do this course. This is not going to make the free Enneagram course that we're going to do go away or anything. But in the scheme of things, this may come before that one. And that is the course on understanding the concept of the rasas. Rasa is a Sanskrit word that can mean a taste, a sensitivity, or an essence. And there is an ancient teaching that says that every human being has 9 rasas. Sound familiar? Sort of like maybe relating to that thing there. It relates actually quite well, even though the two traditions are supposedly not connected.
Yeah. And for those who aren't watching visually, we're talking about the Enneagram diagram.
Yeah. So the rasas are, I think of them as primordial meta emotions. And interestingly enough, science keeps coming up with something very, very similar. And we'll talk about that during the course. But you know, there are 9 emotions, and they'll include love, fear, joy, anger. The emotions that have the same expression everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. No matter where you are in the world, if somebody is angry, they will have the same facial expression. You will know them. There is no place where anger looks different. There is no place where fear looks different. There is no place where love looks different. There is no place where disgust looks different. If you take a little turd and you hold it under somebody's nose, they're going to make the same face, whether they live in Tanzania or Australia or China. And,
AKA gross.
Yeah. But these are like basic fundamental human wiring. And the ancient rishis understood this, and they created a model for working with it. And we are going to do a course on that model. This is going to be very exciting because there has never been much work done on this. I know of one person who did some talking about it, and his stuff was very weird and superficial. Mm. So we're going to delve much more deeply into this. For the first time ever, yet again.
Zoha says that's very exciting. She's looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Good. Yeah, us too, yeah.
Yeah, so more information within the next week or so on that. There will be commercials.
Yeah, it's going to be a thing. You guys will have to endure.
Yeah, sorry.
But we're also hoping, that you'll be motivated to join in on that, because it's going to be a formal class. It'll be structured, and we'll have regular sessions.
And we will have major material for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been writing on this subject for some years now, and I'm pulling all of my notes together and turning them into the class syllabus.
Yeah, so. Yeah.
There may even be a textbook.
Oh, God, you guys.
Yeah.
Find some reading glasses.
Yep.
All right, cool. So anything else we need to share?
We really appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, it was so nice to see all of you like pop in tonight. It's a nice, good crowd.
And especially Will, who has been out wandering about.
Yes. Cool.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, always.
All right. So with no further ado, I am going to end the recording and say goodbye, everybody.